When this game launched alongside the Nintendo Switch, it changed the concept of open world games and completely blew my mind. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an experience I would recommend to almost every video game fan, but can you use it to learn Japanese? Firstly, although the game launched over 4 years ago as of the time of recording, the game is still nearly full price. Though you can buy special editions with all the DLC and it occasionally goes on sale, it's never more than around a 30% discount, as is the curse of a first-party Nintendo title. So, compared to other games you could practice Japanese with, this one is on the more expensive end. Being an exclusive as well means if you don't have a Switch, you're gonna have trouble finding a way to play it. If you do have a Switch however, luckily you don't have to worry about buying the correct regional game, as you can play the game in Japanese regardless of the region you bought it in. On the whole, the Japanese level is not too difficult. The game often talks of soldiers, knights, heroes, battles and destruction, but after learning these words and hearing the repetition, you start to get used to them. The rest of the language in the game is mostly instructions, descriptions, or simple conversations between the few NPCs in the game. The game does have voice acting, but it's reserved explicitly for only the most important of NPCs, and even then, they have some dialogue with no voice sometimes. This is nice listening practice when you hear it, but I would say 99% of the playtime will be reading or combat and exploration. That being said, there is quite a lot to read, if you look for it. Every time you pick up an item, it gives you a short description of the item and how to use it. For example, with foods, it has a short description and then what properties it adds if combined in a dish when cooking. The story is both interesting, but also very sparse. If you can follow what's being said, learning about the land and the lore is super interesting, and they even verbally tell you what to do and where to go next. If this causes problems, there is a quest log and map markers, but these aren't the most detailed quest trackers I've seen. Most of the language input, aside from the descriptions, will come from talking to the NPCs who reside in the several towns and who travel the roads that connect them. These conversations aren't essential, but they usually have little bits of humour or world building that makes talking to everyone a little bit more fun than tedious. Finally, all these dialogues and descriptions come with furigana and a nice clear font, which really wins the game some bonus points for accessibility if reading isn't your strong point. Okay, so hello, welcome to the demo section. It took me a long time of not much input to get here. There was lots of walking, climbing, it's in the rain. The prince of the Zora, this is the Zora's domain, Zora no Sato. So the prince spoke to me a little bit on the way, but apart from that, there's been almost zero input for maybe like 30 minutes. It was a long way. Like the first time coming here, it took a long time. But now we're here. This is one of the main sources of like reading practice, I guess, or like Japanese input in Breath of the Wild. So we're gonna go talk to some people. Link-sama. Aria no eiketsu Link-sama Zora. Zora. When they end with Zora. Okay, cool. Boku Zora yo. Ritoban Zora da yo. Ritoban Zora yo. 子供の頃泳ぎを教えてもらった。覚えてないゾラ？覚えてない。まあ、あれから100年経ちますからね。僕だってもう130歳を超えましたし。しかし、ハイリア人も意外と長生きゾラね。父上、勤務中ですよ。勤務中ですよ。I guess it means like on duty. Oh, Sumanzora. It's kind of, I mean, it's not teaching you how to have a normal conversation with humans. ガキ大丈だったスワバヤ。I guess that's her name. 上血のジョアダ。ジョアダ。すっかり年を取りましたが、父のモルデンもみんな元気でやってるゾラ。あ、でもリンク様、じい様方とは話さない方が良さそうな気が。おっと、引き止めちゃったぞれね。まずは大の間にご用ありそうだから後でゆっくり話すぞら。 Yeah, so there were lots of names. There were lots of Zora names, which is rough. And the ending sentence with Zora instead of like da or des was a bit. It was a bit weird. But you know, that was language. Let's speak to this guy. 하리진 엔로 하루바루 お疲れ様です。私レトガンと申します。Enro. I don't know what enro means. I mean, I feel like it means long road, right? That's what it says, but I guess it means like it was a long journey. Yeah, long road. Journey. God damn it. But yeah, enro harubaru is like a set phrase. So it just means like a long journey to come all the way. So sure, you know, that's useful to know. We could have guessed it from the kanji, but it's good to know that if you see enro and harubaru together, that's like a set phrase. 私のことはさておき、今はドレファノにお会いになっていただけませんか？王の間におられますのでぜひ。こんにちは。誰？ハリエ人です。へえ。ねえ、ハリエ人なら遠くから来たの？僕のやっぱいや。知らない人と話しちゃダメって父ちゃん言ってたし。Okay, I'll speak to your brother then. おい。なんだ？兄ちゃん。それにしても変な顔だな。ハリエ人です。ハリエ人？初めて見た。ハリエ人ってことは遠くから来たってことだよな。だったら途中でリーメ母ちゃん見なかったか？ Oh, I think she's dead. I'm not sure. 母ちゃん、水の化け物が暴れ出してから帰ってこなくGod damn! 帰ってこなくてさ。まあそのうち帰ってくると思うけどな。Okay, so some woman, I guess we don't really know who, is out fighting like monsters in the water, and she's not back yet. I want to speak to the Goron. This is why I'm here. アギプト。いや、ハリエ人だね。この辺では珍しいね。僕は旅の途中で近くを通りかかったところを指導王子にここまで誘導された頃。誘導。I mean, it's the kanji for invite, and then like way guide. So it must be like invited me to come. Guidance, yeah, leading instruction. Makes sense. 誘導。でも僕は電気の矢は触れるけど体重が重たいから君を背中に乗せるの無理だぞって指導時に言われたところ。なんか失礼な話だよね。So, you know, speaking to people, this is fine, right? ミファ様を奪い支配や人がのこのこと今さら何の夜空。ここって武器の工房。何してるの？ I feel like a child. 槍の修理。槍って氷の槍と祭事の槍。さっきからガチャガチャうるさい空。氷の槍の手にしたことのないやつはここに来る意味はない空。早くねえ空。He's not very friendly. He's working like some spears, I guess. So no one here has voice acting. It's only like major characters. We can read. You know, you can read lots of conversations. You can read some descriptions. We got Gogo Hasu no Mi. I don't know what it's supposed to be like. You know, it's not a real thing. 根から集まった栄養は料理に使うと移動速度が上がる効果として現れる。So it's just saying if you use it in food, it increases your movement speed. So, you know, that's fine. Oh, what's this? Ganbari gani. So it's just a crab. So it comes out when it's raining. If you use the crab in your cooking, then it can increase or replenish your stamina. Cool. But yeah, you know, like little things like that are useful. But that's about the extent of input in this game, is talking to people. You got a little bit in the loading screen here, but I find that generally it loads so quickly you don't have time to finish it, and there's so many different hints that seeing the same one, it's still hard to read it all. So maybe we'll try a little bit of this shrine. I'll see how terrible I do. But yeah, so we have oshidasu chikara. So we're talking about like pushing something, right? And chikara, power. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. That wasn't planned. Oh, we can just run up this. That's much easier. So we got like a spear. Again, you got a tiny bit of text here, but this text you can view anytime from the menu. But I don't have enough weapon slots, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna just lob this. Yeah, so if we open the pouch, like, you can read this anytime. A little description. You can read all of the descriptions, which are, you know, interesting the first time. I wouldn't really recommend reading it over and over again, because it's just boring, right? It's boring. It seemed much more difficult in my head. So I mean, I'm pretty happy with this. No, I was almost happy. Well, that didn't go as planned. But as you can see, my Japanese is not being tested. My skill and problem solving clearly is, and I am clearly failing. But I feel like there's nothing left to show you in this example section, so let's head back to the rest of the video. Hopefully something was useful somewhere. I briefly touched on it earlier, but the story in Breath of the Wild is rather unique. The first hour or two of the game is somewhat focused, needing to clear some objectives before the rest of the world opens up to you, though even this initial area has some freedom. Once you have the parasol, there are some story beats to help you progress, but in general, you're free to go wherever you want. This is great because you can let curiosity be your guide. There are some puzzles you really should solve, some dungeons you really should beat, but all of this is optional. If you want to, you can go straight to the final boss and try to tackle it. In a normal playthrough, I wouldn't recommend it, and from a learner's perspective, even more so. The puzzle shrines usually are named something relevant to how to approach solving them, so if you can't understand the hint in the name, some puzzles can be very difficult. However, if you do get stuck in one of the puzzles or quests, having the freedom to stop, go somewhere completely different, and maybe try again later with new equipment or information is great. So my advice to get the most out of this game is to find people and talk to them and really experience life in this new world, in Japanese. However, this freedom also comes at a cost, and that cost is potentially spending hours walking and exploring with very minimal Japanese exposure. You unlock some fast travel points, but even unlocking all of these takes a very long time with minimal language input. The time between voice-acted cutscenes is also quite large, and being caught in a thunderstorm, inhibiting your ability to progress and calling you to fall down a mountain, losing 20 minutes worth of progress is just as disheartening as it would be in real life. So overall, the gaming to learning ratio here is very much in favor of gaming, which is okay. If you wanted your input to be super dense reading all the time, you could just read a book, right? But learning via video games is just so much more engaging. It's just so much more fun. Of course, nothing is for everyone, and I've heard people have valid criticisms of the game, but it seems that the vast majority believe this game is a lot of fun. Though exploring is immersion dead time, as I have decreed, even exploring and climbing and flying in this game is super fun. And then other times, just put on a podcast or a TV show you've seen before in the background, in Japanese of course, and go exploring, climb all the towers, challenge your brain with the puzzles, fight the big monsters, all while getting some sweet passive immersion. So far I've said a lot of good things about Breath of the Wild, but not so many good things about using it as a language learning resource. So let's answer the question. Can you learn Japanese with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? As always, the answer is yes, but with a hefty price tag, Nintendo Switch exclusivity, and large portions of downtime, I would recommend many other games over this one first. Again, because the efficiency is so low, I wouldn't recommend it for beginners. But if your motivation towards this franchise overpowers your desire for efficiency, I think beginners could find it useful thanks to the furigana and context and repetition. Also, if you already own a Switch, this is a game worth playing in its own right. Perhaps practicing your Japanese study could be a secondary reason to play. Or if you've already played the game once and want to get familiar with the game and the world again before the sequel is released, then to you I honestly recommend playing Breath of the Wild in Japanese. For its hours and hours of content, interesting story filled with reading practice and the large immersive world to get lost in, and so many NPCs who just can't wait to tell you their cooking recipes. If you'd like a recommendation for something else to play in Japanese, please check out my other videos, and if you have any suggestions or comments, please let me know either here on YouTube or over on Twitter, where I'm also kind of active. Finally, if there's any other games you think are very efficient ways to practice learning a language, please let me know. Anyway, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your language learning friends. Thanks for watching. I've been Joe from Zento. Bye.